Unraveling the mysteries. Every paradox explained. 1. The liar paradox. This statement is false. If the statement is true, then it must be false, but if it is false, then it must be true. This creates a paradox because the statement cannot be consistently assigned a truth value. 2. The barber paradox. In a town, there is a barber who shaves all and only those men who do not shave themselves. The question is, does the barber shave himself? If he does shave himself, then he must not, according to the rule. But if he doesn't shave himself, then he must, according to the rule. This paradox arises from the attempt to define a set that contains itself. 3. The grandfather paradox. This is a time travel paradox. Suppose a person travels back in time and prevents their grandparents from meeting. This would mean that the person's parents would never have been born, leading to the person themselves never being born. However, if the person was never born, they could not have traveled back in time to prevent their grandparents from meeting, creating a contradiction. 4. The unexpected hanging paradox. A judge tells a prisoner that he will be hanged at noon on one weekday in the following week, but that the execution will be a surprise to the prisoner. The prisoner deduces that he will not be hanged on Friday, because if he hasn't been hanged by Thursday, the hanging on Friday would not be a surprise. But then Friday is the only day left, so he should expect to be hanged on Friday, contradicting his earlier deduction. 5. The ship of Theseus paradox. If you replace all the parts of a ship, is it still the same ship? This paradox raises questions about identity and persistence of objects over time. If every part of the ship is replaced, it is still called the ship of Theseus. But is it really the same ship? 6. Zeno's paradoxes. A series of paradoxes proposed by the ancient Greek philosopher Zeno, which challenge the concept of motion. One of the most famous is the paradox of Achilles and the tortoise, where Achilles, who runs faster than the tortoise, gives the tortoise a head start in a race. According to Zeno, Achilles can never overtake the tortoise because each time Achilles reaches the point where the tortoise was, the tortoise has moved a little further ahead. 7. The Sorite's paradox. Also known as the paradox of the heap, it arises from the question of when a heap of sand stops being a heap if you remove grains of sand one by one. At what point does it cease to be a heap? This paradox challenges our understanding of boundaries and definitions. 8. The omnipotence paradox. Can an omnipotent being create a stone so heavy that it cannot lift it? If it can, then it is not omnipotent because it cannot lift the stone. If it cannot, then it is also not omnipotent because it cannot create such a stone. 9. The paradox of choice. The more choices you have, the harder it is to make a decision. This paradox suggests that while having more options seems desirable, it can lead to decision paralysis and dissatisfaction. 10. The paradox of tolerance. Should a tolerant society tolerate intolerance? If it does, then intolerance may eventually undermine tolerance itself. But if it does not tolerate intolerance, then it is being intolerant, which contradicts the principle of tolerance. 11. The paradox of thrift. This economic paradox suggests that if everyone saves more money during times of recession, then aggregate demand will fall and lead to lower total savings. 12. The friendship paradox. On average, your friends have more friends than you do. This paradox arises from the way social networks are structured. 13. The bootstrap paradox. In time travel fiction, this paradox occurs when an object or information is sent back in time and becomes the very thing that was originally sent back, with no origin. 14. The paradox of enlightenment. Seeking to attain enlightenment through effort, implies a self that is seeking to be enlightened, which contradicts the idea of egolessness in enlightenment. 15. The paradox of the court. If a judge who always speaks the truth says that he will punish a man by hanging him, the man can argue that the judge will not hang him because if the judge does, it would make his statement true, which contradicts the fact that he always speaks the truth. 16. The paradox of hedonism. The more you pursue happiness directly, the less likely you are to achieve it. This paradox suggests that happiness is best attained indirectly, through other pursuits or activities. 17. The paradox of expertise. The more you know about a subject, the harder it can be to communicate that knowledge to others who are less knowledgeable, leading to misunderstandings. 18. The paradox of fiction. We can have emotional responses to fictional characters and events even though we know they are not real. 19. The Pinocchio paradox. If Pinocchio says, "My nose will grow now," what happens? If his nose grows, then he is telling the truth, but his nose grows when he lies. If his nose doesn't grow, then he is lying, but his nose grows when he lies. 20. The paradox of the unexpected examination. A teacher announces that there will be a surprise test sometime during the next week. The students argue that the test cannot be on Friday, because if they haven't been tested by Thursday, then Friday's test would not be a surprise. But then Friday is the only day left, so it must be the day of the test, contradicting the surprise element.